Hey guys, so today's video is a part 2 of a video I filmed a few weeks ago. I'm going to link in the description. It's to do with brands that kind of fell off, brands that aren't as popular anymore. And I filmed that video being quite happy with the list I came up with. And I told you guys to put any other ones in the comment section. I expected maybe 1 or 2 extra brands, but you guys came up with a whole other list. I feel like we have at least a part 2, if not even a part 3. That's incredible. So I'm just going to get into it. Before I do, my social media will be in the description along with my drama channel and anything else you might need to find, including what's on my face, etc. And let's just get into it. So the first one that you guys mentioned was Tarte. I don't know how I forgot about Tarte. So they had Shape Tape. They had some boring palettes that were fine at the time, but right now they're not that great. Like the Tartelette palettes, you know the ones I'm talking about. Just have the Amazonian clay blushes, but I feel like people have found many other formulas that they also enjoy. So I feel like some people are still buying them, but they're not as hyped as they were back when blush maybe wasn't as popular, or at least not the high-end formula that was the Amazonian clay blush. They're still coming out with really boring palettes, boring packaging, just really boring makeup. And I feel like people have really gotten over the Shape Tape now. It's not as hyped as it was for a long time. So I feel like that's why Tarte is falling off. They're really not creating anything original, revolutionary, anything that is worth talking about in the grand scheme of things. But I think they're doing fine because they're in Sephora. And anyone that comes in is going to see that boring palette and be like, nice, let me buy it. Like people that don't watch YouTube, they're just gonna be like, oh, that's good for work and every day, let me just grab it. So I think they're fine, but they haven't really released anything that was heavily spoken about on YouTube in the last 2 or 3 years. And obviously this list isn't like brands that are going bankrupt or failing. They're just brands that have lost their sparkle on the internet. I feel like there are many brands that come and go, but there are some brands that are continually spoken about on the internet, and then some brands that just are not spoken about on the internet. We have Smashbox. Smashbox used to be a really hyped brand. They had like the primers, they had brushes, they had foundations, I'm pretty sure. And since then, I feel like no one really talks about them. Like they still sell the primers, and if you want a good primer, you're gonna go to Smashbox. You might buy a brush from them, like the ones with the red handles that Tarte used to talk about. But other than that, I don't really hear anything from Smashbox. I feel like their packaging is kind of boring. They look like a proper like MUA brand. They kind of look like MAC and those brands where they have like that really just simple black packaging. And other than that, I don't see them doing anything interesting. I feel like nowadays packaging is also really important, and if you create really boring packaging, people are less likely to talk about your brand because it just doesn't look as good in videos and pictures and stuff. I don't know what it is about Smashbox. I think it's just the lack of like new ideas. They just have their primers and that's what they're known for, and that's what they stick with. They don't really want to come up with anything new. And also heard that some of their formulas are kind of disappointing, like their eyeshadows and stuff, so that's why they're falling off. We have Sigma. So Sigma is known for brushes, and they're kind of like the mid-tier pricing of brushes. They're really good brushes. I have a few Sigma ones, but you have to also have some other products, and I feel like Sigma has really good brush products, and then no one else talks about anything else that they release. Also, how often do you buy brushes? I feel like they're one of those products that you keep for a really long time, so once you have your set of brushes, you're not going to buy ones for a while after, which is why Morphe brushes turned into Morphe, because they couldn't just rely on brush sales. You don't buy that many brushes. Sigma is now trying to get into the makeup world because they realize that not everyone buys brushes all the time. So they're trying to release palettes. They released those big ones. One of them looked like Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance, and it was an ad on my Instagram for ages. I feel like everyone got that ad. And then they released another one that people really liked, and now they're releasing little like 9-pan ones. I don't really hear much hype around them. Nothing but the brushes, I guess, gets hype. I don't know any Sigma faves that people talk about, so I just feel like they really boxed themselves in with the brushes and then didn't do anything but that, and now it's really difficult to come into the makeup space if you don't have any like super original ideas. It's difficult to come in with anything new that people would want to try out if people already have their like cult favorites. Then we have Benefit. They're still doing fine. They're doing amazingly well. Their sales are fine, I'm pretty sure. They've got their brows, and you buy brows pretty much every month. I feel like you go through a brow pencil within a month. Like you need a new brow gel all the time, a new brow pencil, and they're not cheap, and people are loyal to their Benefit brow products, so they keep on buying them. The rest of their products, trash. They still have 2 shades of bronzer, one medium one that they came out with originally and one Hoola Light. I think they came out with a deeper one, but they didn't even advertise it properly, so I wouldn't even know until like looked into it. They have a few blushes. Also, they don't go deep enough. I think their deepest one is like Rocketeur, but that one's mid-tone pink. They have highlighters basically in one shade. They had like the Dandelion one, and they keep on releasing palettes of their like blushes and bronzers, but they never release deeper ones. They recently released, not recently, like a year ago. That's what's recent to me right now. A year ago, they released a stick foundation that came in like 5 shades, and most of them were white. I don't know how they expect to survive on the internet when they do stuff like that, but I guess they don't rely on the internet anymore. They rely on their brow products and their brow like you know, the stands they have in like department stores where people just go and find brow products. If they're not like big watchers of YouTube, they're just going to go there and find their brow products and move on with their life, and they're going to spend, you know, 20-30 pounds every month buying their brow products, and that's it. Like, I think they're relying on those sales right now, and it's doing well for them, because unlike brushes, brow products are something you buy regularly. Brushes, not so much, which is why Benefit is financially doing well, but they're not really doing well on the internet anymore, because not many people want to talk about them in a positive way because of their trash shade ranges. Then we have Cover FX. They were almost like the ABH, where they only released a few things during the year, so they didn't have any, they weren't ColourPop, they weren't releasing a new launch every week. ABH back in the day would release like one palette a year, and it was like this big moment for everyone. Cover FX kind of tried to do that thing where they wouldn't release too many things and tried to be more exclusive, but I feel like that doesn't work for them because there's not that much hype around them. If you don't have much hype, people are not really looking forward to the launch. So if you're not launching a lot, people are not talking about you a lot. So they had their like drops, the ones that you added into your makeup or used as highlight, the ones like really shimmery ones. Well, no, they were metallic. That's the point. They were metallic and people really enjoyed them. And then once that hype died down, they tried to release glitter ones, but everyone hated them because apparently it was like really chunky glitter. So they didn't really work out. And then they kind of didn't release anything interesting in between, so people weren't really talking about them. And then they released their bronzer and blush duos, which are kind of like a hate or love product. Some people really love them and I hate them, and a lot of people don't really like them. I've seen some people talk about how patchy they are, but some people really enjoy them. So those were another hyped product, and that was really it. Like, they haven't really had any other big products that people would talk about on the internet, and I think that's why they're not really spoken about much. Like, when's the last time you heard about Cover FX? I haven't. I don't really know what's happening with them. But yeah, I think that's the whole point. It's just like they don't release enough and they're not really a hyped brand. So doing these like limited launches doesn't really work if there's no hype behind you. I think you need to build up the hype first and then do the limited launches. I don't know, I feel like that's just kind of like how it is. Makeup Geek. They used to be really huge. They would have all the like codes with the influencers. They were releasing single shadows, and back when single shadows were like a brand new thing and super exciting, it was, you know, really interesting. Since then, they kind of stopped releasing stuff. I think it was because of the Jaclyn Hill stuff. They were screwed over by Jaclyn Hill. They made a palette that was supposed to be a collaboration with Jaclyn Hill, and then Morphe offered her a palette, and she basically mid-production just told Makeup Geek that she wasn't going to do it anymore, which means they wasted a lot of money on nothing. I think they could have just really, I mean, could they have just released it without her name? Or were they contractually obligated to do it with her? I don't know. I feel like they could have reused it somehow. So then they took a huge break where they weren't really releasing anything, and then they came back with their Matrix line now, which was supposed to be, instead of circle pans, square pans, and it was still single shadows, but you could build your own palettes, and people just were not hyped about it. That's it. Like, I didn't see many reviews. The ones I did were like, yep, it's fine makeup, cool eyeshadows, I guess, but like, you're having to buy single eyeshadows, which are obviously more expensive. When you buy single eyeshadows, they're always more expensive than buying them in a palette. So you're buying single shadows to then make a palette out of them instead of just buying a pre-made, more affordable palette, which just makes sense financially to buy a pre-made palette, unless you're looking for very specific shadows, but that's, you can buy one or two. You don't have to buy a whole single shadow palette to do that with, because it's just expensive. Like, those palettes were expensive. Some of them were like 100 plus. So those were on the internet for like a week or two because everyone was excited about Makeup Geek making a comeback. But then when people realized that she was just re-releasing single shadows, people just lost their interest and curiosity because they were like, oh, it's just the same thing except for square pans instead of circle pans. Great. And that's sadly why Makeup Geek just isn't what it used to be. It's like single shadows are not that interesting anymore. And she just came out with the same stuff that she lost her hype for, if that makes sense. Like Marlena, obviously talk about her Marlena because she's like the main face behind Makeup Geek. But it's like, you release single shadows, they're very hyped, and then when you see them losing hype, you should probably move on to something else. But she kind of like waited a year or two and then just said, oh, I'm just gonna re-release the thing that made me lose my hype. I don't know, I feel like this might sound really harsh, but I just feel like she could have come back with something else. Like, pre-made palettes would have been good, some lip products, and I feel like just coming out with single shadows again was not a great idea. Then we have Oprah. So they're known for their highlighters, and they were kind of like doing the thing with Nikkie Tutorials. I feel like she was really pushing the brand along. And then when she started moving on to other things, you know, as you do when you're a makeup reviewer or makeup tutorialer, the person that does makeup tutorials, you're not going to just use the same highlights over and over again. So at some point, people just lost interest in Oprah. Also, highlights are one of those things you don't really buy that many of if you're just a regular consumer because you don't use them a lot. So if your whole brand is focused on highlights, they're the thing on their face that you use the least because it's just like the least surface area. So you go through them not that quickly. So if you're just a regular consumer, you're not going to buy 10,000 highlighters. And I feel like they don't really have anything else. Also, their packaging is really bulky. Like their highlights, fine, they can be a little bit bulky, but then you have like eyeshadow palettes that are like this big. They don't really have that many shades in them, and it's just like they mix face and eye palettes, and it's just, I think people are really turned off by the packaging. The price points are really high, but the packaging isn't that luxe. It's really bulky, but it's not luxe. And I just feel like, yeah, they just release really weird stuff. I wish they just like toned down on the packaging, came out with like cohesive palettes instead of doing like face and eye and cheek and something. It's just like, no, just do an eye palette and a face palette, and then do highlights and bronzers and blushes separately, so you have some staples that people can come back to rather than having all of these like weird mismatched products. That's my opinion on that. Also, they were known for their liquid lipsticks, and that's a train that's long gone from the station. So then we have Too Faced. Too Faced fell off. Their makeup is a little bit tacky most of the time. I feel like some products are fine. I have this like natural, you know, the nude palette that everyone has that has like alternating shimmer and matte shades. And I have one of their highlighter palettes. It's got like 3 different formulas of highlights. And I have the extreme plumping lip gloss that everyone on TikTok was buying. So I was like, oh, I want to see if it's actually plumping. And it's not plumping at all. Everyone lied to me. I put it on and it felt like a regular lip gloss. Like I have the So Juicy lip glosses from Colourpop, and they're actually mentholy. And then I expected the Too Faced ones to be like plumping, and they just weren't. It was just a regular lip gloss. I was so disappointed. Anyway, so they have some normal things that people can buy that get a lot of hype, and then they come out with these like really just disgusting, that sounds really mean, just these really tacky, childish launches that I'm just tired of. And I feel like everyone else is tired of them, and also apparently their formula is not consistent. So during Christmas time, they'll come out with palettes that are really awful quality, and then throughout the year, they'll come out with really good palettes. So it's just, you never really know what you're getting with Too Faced. Also, the owner did some ignorant things, like the Rich Lives Matter cake that he did, and then his sister, that's now apparently fired, obviously was having a go at Nikki Tutorials for coming out on the internet, which just, oh my god. But apparently she was fired, so she's not a part of the company anymore, allegedly. We don't really know much about that. And obviously the way they screwed over Nikki Tutorials initially with how much they paid her for the palette that she created with them, she made 50 grand and they made like 10 million from it. So there's all of that. Then we have NYX, who are priced at like a midpoint. I'd compare them price-wise to like Physicians Formula, where it's like drugstore prices, but not quite. It's like in between drugstore and mid-tier pricing, but their packaging is so cheap. Like flimsy, falls apart really easily. So I just don't really understand where the pricing is coming from. It's like they're trying to price themselves at more luxe point for drugstore, but their packaging isn't great. So like they need to really work on their packaging before they have those prices, because it just doesn't match up. I feel like they come out with really interesting products, and it's always really good quality products, but their packaging is definitely what turns people off, and they really need to just work on that before raising their prices. They recently had some hyped products on TikTok, which TikTok makes some really hyped products right now. They had their marshmallow primer, the brow glue, but everything else, I feel like it's just really boring packaging. It looks kind of like Morphe, it looks like private labeled stuff, but their products inside are really good. So I feel like if they just fix their packaging a little bit, they could justify those prices. But right now with the kind of packaging they have, I don't think the prices are justified, and many other people feel that way. I feel like it's the reason why people, instead of drugstore products, pick things like Colourpop, because the packaging is actually really nice and well thought out. Whereas you have brands like NYX who make just really boring packaging that makes their makeup look really boring. In turn, we have Limecrime. So they had this scandal back in the day of one of their owners just being really problematic and really poor customer service. Like people couldn't return their stuff and it would come in like half filled. So apparently since then they've gotten rid of the owner, but it doesn't really make sense because she's still on the board. Like she still makes money from stocks that she has in the company. So when you buy Limecrime, you're still technically paying her wage. She's just not the like creative mind behind Limecrime anymore. And then since then they just haven't come out with anything good. Like they recently came out with like a lip oil, and that's it. Like that's all they released. They're just like, after a while of not releasing stuff, here's a lip oil. Not even like multiple lip oils, just one. I don't understand their brand at all, and nothing that they've released has even made me think twice about them. Violet Voss, awful packaging. And like I said, packaging is really important because like at this point, there's not really much you can create in makeup that is new and original. So I guess packaging is the one way that you can really like stand out. You make new custom packaging and new designs on it, new colors and stuff. And their packaging looks like someone who learned graphic design in like the 80s and they're still using that software to do the design. That's what it looks like. It looks like I did it in Word. With the like clip art that you used to use, yeah, that's what Violet Voss packaging is looking like right now, and I just hate it so much. And I feel like that's why people get turned off, because they're a more mid-tier kind of like ABH pricing, but the quality of the packaging, no, it just turns people off. It's the same thing as NYX, just on a different price point, I guess. The Balm. I don't know if you guys remember the Balm. They used to create these like really vintagey looking makeup products with like little girls painted on them and guys, and it was like the nude mood palette, right? The nude dude, nude They used to be like a nude palette that had like boys and girls on them. They had their Mary Lou Manizer, yeah, it was like the highlight. That was my first non-high-end highlight that I bought, because my first high-end highlight was Becca. My first like mid-tier highlight was the Mary Luminizer, and I got it in like a trio with the Mary Luminizer, the Cindy Luminizer, and there was another one, but it was way too deep for me. This is why I say you don't buy highlighter palettes, but I did this when I was younger and I only used the Mary Lou one and I didn't use the other one, so I just really enjoyed that highlight. I thought it was really good. But since then, obviously, we've come a long way with highlights. Highlights are not a special thing anymore. They're not like, oh my God, when Becca came out with Champagne Pop, everything was crazy. We have a bunch of highlights now. They're not that interesting. And I feel like since then, they haven't really improved on their formulas. They haven't come out with anything interesting, innovative, anything that would stand out. So I feel like they just kind of fell behind and people don't really care anymore, right? I wonder how they're doing financially, because I really haven't heard anything about them. Not even from like regular customers. Like I feel like most people knew the Balm from YouTube and nothing else. I don't know. Then we have Dose of Colors, who are just known for liquid lipsticks and liquid lipsticks only. So when liquid lipsticks fell off because we realized that liquid lipsticks were really uncomfortable, Dose of Colors had nothing else to offer us. I think since then they've done Disney collabs, which have done well for them because Disney sells well despite what the product is. And I feel like nothing else ever really gets talked about. So I don't know how they're doing financially, but yeah. I heard they were one of the most comfortable liquid lipstick formulas, so if you're still using liquid lipsticks, you're probably buying Dose of Colors, but I don't hear many people using them, so I don't know how they're doing financially. They did release eyeshadow palettes, but those are apparently really inconsistent. Like some of them are really good, some of them were kind of bad and patchy. So I haven't heard anything amazing about them. Like I've heard neutral things, I've heard some good things, some bad things, but I've never heard anything like outstanding about Dose of Colors. Then Kylie Cosmetics. Oh my God, okay. So I still have some old Kylie products that I'm using up in my project pan, like lip liners and liquid lipsticks and lip glosses. And whenever I go to link a product, even if it's like a very like popular products, aka Coco K, Candy K, like all of those lipsticks that she released when she first launched her brand, none of it is on her website. Like I'm not even talking about limited edition stuff, I'm talking about literally like the most basic of basic, like Coco K lip liner, not on the website. Candy K lip liner, like none of that is on the website. I tried to link lip glosses, not on there. Any like liquid lipsticks I have, not on there. Anything that I use, those like eyeshadow pots, they have like 2 on their website. And it doesn't even say out of stock, it's just not on the website. Some things say out of stock, some things say in stock, but some things are just not there anymore. I'm wondering if Kylie Cosmetics is going under. Because apparently when you went Ulta Cosmetics, Ulta, we don't have that in the UK, so we can only buy through her official website. But when you went on Ulta, apparently all of her blushes were on like half off. Some of them for like £8. Like all of her powder products were on like $8, which is crazy because she never used to have sales because she would really sell out every single time. And I feel like the last time she sold out was the Grinch collection that she did. I don't even think she did a Valentine's Day collection this year, and usually Kylie does a collection for every single like big season change or big seasonal kind of like holiday. So she would always do Valentine's Day, she would always do her birthday, she would do Christmas, she would do Halloween, Stormy's birthday, summertime, she would always do like a summertime collection. I think there was a summertime collection last year, it was like a sailor type look. I'm just confused because Kylie used to do a very similar thing to Colourpop where she would release a lot of launches, and now it's nothing, silence. I'm wondering if they're going under. Like she sold her shares, she got her 600 million, and she's just like, bye guys, it was fun while it lasted, have fun. Because just nothing, I feel like after liquid lipsticks lost their hype, she also lost her hype, and here we are now. Hourglass. They were doing so well. They were like a vegan, cruelty-free, high-end brand, which you usually don't find. I feel like most high-end brands are either non-cruelty-free or non-vegan or both. Hourglass was like a really luxe brand that was cruelty-free and mostly vegan that is now coming out with more vegan products, but because of their shade ranges, they've just been completely like ignored now on the internet. I feel like they recently came out with that awful like ambient lighting palette for deeper skin tones, which wasn't for deeper skin tones. It was like a mid-tone palette with existing products. It wasn't even like a new product they came out with. They just repackaged old stuff. And I feel like since then, no one has really spoken about them. So that's just really sad for Hourglass because they were doing really well. And if they just focused on shade ranges, as well as being cruelty-free and vegan, they could have been one of the best brands for makeup. For people that love luxe makeup, them being vegan and cruelty-free doesn't mean they can just ignore deeper skin tones. They have to do both if they want to stay in the market, and they just didn't do that. And that's just really sad. But that's all the brands I have for now. If you have any more brands, we can do a part 3. So just let me know what other brands. Watch the first one though, so you don't tell me brands from the first one. I have a part 1, watch this one, and then tell me what you think I missed. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below anything you want to comment down below, and subscribe to those videos every time I think of something to do. So hit that bell, be notified when that's happening. Social media links, any other links in description. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.